What up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Nerd Gen Report. I'm your host, Pablo, and joining me, as always, is Mr. Brian Schultz. DC Roundup Part 2. A lot to discuss. More news keeps coming out. And I can't help but feeling that James Gunn is sort of, not trolling Matt Reeves in his prowess in getting out a sequel, but it's just the emphasis of him talking about it. We already finished and we're gonna put it out is a little bit suspect to me, but whatever. But we're gonna be talking about DC Roundup. A lot more to discuss to follow up on our first one. More Man of Tomorrow, which is the official title for this Superman film. We got Jeffrey Wright on his thoughts on people's opinions about him being Commissioner Gordon. Colin Farrell on the Batman 2 and Penguin and the Penguin Season 2. Peacemaker. I'm still watching it, Brian, even though I sort of I'm going to take a break from this. Thank God it's week to week. But we'll talk about that. Clayface photos. Interesting stuff happening there. And Lanterns. The true nature being kept under wraps. I'm so excited for... Listen, 2026 is the true test of the DCU.
Yeah, calendar's a big deal. We laid it out. We want to talk about the calendar. There's stuff happening here that's not an accident.
So let's start with Superman. Brian, what's the latest?
Well, I think the latest is, look, we have a title. We have a finished script, right? Initially, we had a treatment, which Gunn said was 60 pages. That's when they greenlit the movie. He has since tweeted his script is already done. If you believe folks like Frank Grillo, his scripts tend not to change that much. So in theory, this would probably be pretty close to the shooting script. It then triggered some interesting social media responses from certain individuals, perhaps hinting they are in the movie.
Okay.
He has reiterated since the script came out. Someone asked him, is this the same Superman movie you were referencing before, the one that's not the sequel? Or is this now Superman 2? And he said, correct, same movie, not Superman 2. So even though it's called Superman Man of Tomorrow, he maintains this is not Superman 2.
Whatever, man.
He also tweeted or posted on socials an image of Superman and Lex in his classic supersuit. Among those to respond to the post, all with the same message, quote, see you soon. Aaron Pierre, obviously known as our Jon Stewart, Isabella Merced, obviously known as our Hawk Girl, and Grant Gustin, CW TV Flash, also on that list, with no confirmation as to whether he is involved again as some variation of Barry Allen. And I stress that because I want to connect this to the Peacemaker discussion. But anyway, that got some people's attention. So I just want to throw it back to you a little bit because we'd started to talk about it. What do you think, and I'll talk about it in full, when you see that, and we talked a little bit about last time, what do you think this movie is really doing on the DC calendar? It's coming in July 9th, 2027. So 1 year after Supergirl, 3 months before the Batman Part 2. It is only 2 years after Superman, which is somewhat quick, not unprecedented, but somewhat quick. And clearly was not part of the Gods and Monsters thing that they announced. So it's just come together. What do you think they are really trying to accomplish? And now that you see kind of the ensemble maybe coming together, what do you think is really going on in this movie?
It's possible that we may be setting up for Justice League against Legion of Doom, possibly. Outside of that, I can't really sort of guess as to what he is trying to accomplish, but I know there is pressure to get this going out as fast as possible to lead up to something. I think Zaslav certainly is talking to James, giving him his thoughts, and because Zaslav is the boss regardless, right? And I think James Gunn is just sort of fast tracking the inevitable assembling of the Justice League. That's what I can gather in terms of all the stuff that's coming out, the people that are talking. That's what I can just think about right now.
So let me ask you a question about Justice League. How do you think James Gunn perceives the Justice League? Meaning, what in his mind constitutes the Justice League? Who would, in his mind, needs to be in the Justice League to call it the Justice League?
Certainly Batman, Wonder Woman, the pillars, right?
Okay, so those three plus Superman. And then we assume we have Green Lantern. Okay, well, so that's what I'm saying. So we know we have Green Lantern. Supergirl obviously is going to qualify. I mean, just by virtue of having a movie. But don't you think like James Gunn would want a non-traditional roster of some sort because it's James Gunn? Whether it's Aquaman, whether it's Martian Manhunter, like somebody that you would normally associate as being an earlier participant in the Justice League, I am assuming is not going to qualify. And it's going to be replaced by Peacemaker, like that type of, you see what I'm saying? Like that to me is James Gunn. He's never going to do the by the numbers. This is the classic roster. I don't think. I think he's going to interject his type of characters to some degree.
Yeah, and those are the things that concern me. That's why I don't get so excited, because I'm not a fan of his creativity somewhat. There are moments that he's certainly capable of delivering, I would say, some type of excellence, but it's not followed through all the way. And am I curious about what he will be doing? Of course. But I'm not I grow weary of how he's going to be able to put this together. He's gonna do his thing. My concern is also, when we watch the Justice League Unlimited and comparing it to what he's done, like with Suicide Squad and just team-based uh superheroes, there's always, like, for example, Hawkgirl to me was and I don't want that to be the case with his Justice League. When you think of Adam Warlock, when you think of Drax, when you think of Hawkgirl, when you think of the Justice League, I wouldn't want one of those characters to be non-essential. And that's what worries me about this pace that we're on, and what sort of foes that they're going to be addressing. It just worries me in that regard, with regards to James Gunn being because he's going to do Justice League.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's going to direct that. I think you're right. I mean, I think he sees the Justice League more as Justice League Unlimited than Justice League, meaning Unlimited being, look how many heroes are in the Watchtower in that series, right? So a lot of them are the classic ones. A lot of them are secondary ones. I think he sees that as, I'm building this world where I have this big roster and not all of them have to participate in a particular adventure, and I can still call it the Justice League. So I am braced for some unorthodox team building that will be called Justice League 1. And then down the road, Justice League 2 could then have slightly different members. And you just always have, as you say, the pillars. They're the only ones who kind of are in. There's like a core group that's in everyone, but then he can swap in, swap out as needed. So I think that's part of it. I thought of a couple other angles as to why this movie's happening and why it's happening so quickly. So number one is, I think this could be a vehicle to introduce Brainiac or the big bad as a way to kind of get that character on the board and start to build it towards something else. And I think Brainiac is the most logical. When I think about, first off, I love the angle that Brainiac corrupted the Kryptonian computer in the fortress to make that message read what it read. I think that's a fantastic get out of jail free card for the story.
Did you read that?
That's rumored. So
Ah,
even though James Gunn has denied it, it's rumored that Brainiac is the one who the only way you could overwrite the code in a way that Mr. Terrific and Lex Luthor wouldn't be able to detect where the change came from. I like that.
yes.
So I like that as an entry point. I also like the idea that Brainiac is hiding somewhere in Lanterns as well as part of the mystery that they're investigating on Earth, that he's somewhere, maybe not central to the show, but there could be an Easter egg or something about him in that storyline, because ultimately you are trying to blend some of these together and make them all mean something. And I think the idea of him as the sort of puppet master of a number of different things in this world is something that Man of Tomorrow could start to tease, right? I don't think he's a physical manifestation character, but the DC equivalent of Thanos turning to the camera, where we as an audience know or can highly suspect that he is at the root of whatever they're up against or investigating. I think that movie could help.
Grant Gustin, he's Barry Allen, correct?
He was Barry Allen in the Flash TV show, right?
If he shows up in this, I think they'll probably kill him off so that we get the Wally West version. Uh, I'm hoping that this Brainiac situation, um, that there is some collusion with Lex Luthor, unbeknown to him, what Brainiac's true plans are, similar to what we got in the Justice League. So
I think
if he's
you could argue
heading,
the super suit might, in fact, some people have posited the super suit might, in fact, be a reference to something like that. The idea that Lex is going to be forced to team up with Superman and vice versa. And obviously, if they're teaming up, a logical reason to do that might be, Brainiac's reveal or something like that. That's one angle. Angle number 2, flooding the zone against Matt Reeves. When I look at this calendar, so we're going to have 2 Superman movies, a Supergirl movie, and a Peacemaker show that we're being told the last 3 episodes are a direct lead-in to Man of Tomorrow. With big DC characters, people are highly suspicious that David Cornsweet is in the last 3 episodes of the show because of some set photos. I think if we could corner James Gunn with the truth serum and ask him, do you want Batman Part 2 to succeed or fail? I don't think he would choose succeed. I don't think it's not that he wants Matt Reeves to personally fail, but he don't want no Batman competition. He doesn't want anyone talking about an alternative to his version. And I think flooding the market with as much Gunn material as he can get on the board before we get to Batman Part 2 is at least somewhat of a method to kind of get out in front, which also leads to, I think Batman is in Man of Tomorrow. Maybe he pops up in Clayface as a reference, but I think by the time Man of Tomorrow hits the screen, a DCU Batman will be cast and will appear either as Bruce or as Batman in that movie, so that 3 months ahead of the Batman Part 2, James Gunn has stolen that spotlight.
whether he steals the spotlight early on, I think it'll be recaptured when Matt Reeves' movie comes out. And the talk of the town will perhaps be that. I don't think Matt Reeves is too much worried about what James Gunn is doing. He's focused on what he's doing and what he wants to deliver to the fans. And I think people are still very much anticipating Matt Reeves' Batman 2 because it's just so different, right? And regardless of what James Gunn, the talk of the town, will be after Batman 2 comes out, uh, will be that, Matt Reeves' Batman. But yes, him getting people to talk about Batman, DCU's Batman, will be top of mind. Listen, anything Batman, we're there to listen to and sort of get excited about what's to come. So I think James Gunn is playing it smart in this case.
So I just think when you look at the timing and they're hustling to get this out 3 months ahead of Batman Part 2, to me, that's sort of indication that the Batman Part 2 has to be part of that consideration. And so I do think there is an appetite there to, hey, we know Zaslav's been pushing him for it anyway, right? So he has the orders from on high to be like, hey, I'm just following orders, same as you, right? But what he's trying to do creatively is trying to get that first mover advantage on this one, to be like, hey, even if the Batman Part 2 kills it, there's a little bit of what happened to Flash and Aquaman 2, where people kind of knew they were lame duck movies. They kind of knew they were on the way out, and it took a little steam for sure. Now, I bet those are not good movies, right? The Batman Part 2 we expect to be a great movie, but it's just a little way, I think. I just don't think he full on wants that movie to blow up. We want it to, as fans, because we can consume both. I think James Gunn there's some ego there. I don't think he wants to feel like the best Batman is somewhere else on the studio lot.
And that will be the topic of
Yeah.
discussion. And that would be the James Gunn versus Matt Reeves Batman, who likes it better, whatever the case may be. I think that will be different enough that people will accept both.
I agree, but I mean, we are gonna measure this in box office, right? In the sense that the Batman Part 2 coming off of 800 million. I mean, anything less than and that wasn't really an 800 million driven by China or by Asia. That's just straight 800 million. Like, the expectation is north of $1 billion. Like, that's to be a lock for that movie, honestly. So if he delivers that, if he delivers like 1-1, 1-3, 1-4, and Man of Tomorrow is like a little bit better than Superman, with DCU Batman making a cameo, I'm just saying, right? Like, now Matt Reeves is there. He's walking around his parking space on the studio lot might be a little closer to the CEO space, right? That's just kind of how that works. And James Gunn doesn't want that. David Zaslav wants that because that's money for Warner Brothers. James Gunn doesn't want that. So I do think there's a little bit of competition to focus people on the DCU everything of it all. And I think the last thing I thought about the last thing, honestly, I actually thought about this in the context of one thing people said about Superman, which is that it felt very comic booky. It felt very Superman the Animated Series. I think James Gunn is actually taking that approach into the product he's putting out. There is whatever we think of Peacemaker, if you take the view that sort of you're doing a run of comics around these characters, well, typically you'd get one a month, right? Like a pretty regular diet of new stories. I think there's a little bit of that where James Gunn is like, okay, we shouldn't be doing things every 3, 4, and 5 years. Forget Matt Reeves, just in general. We should not be following the typical studio model of revisiting these characters every 3, 4, 5 years. Fans love the genre. They love comics. They want a regular diet. And so how I can create the connectivity is like, hey, issue 1 was Superman, right? And like maybe issue 2 is Peacemaker, and issue 3 is going to be Supergirl, and issue 4 is Lanterns, actually, and then issue 5 is Man of Tomorrow. And like this idea that, yeah, you call it a Superman run of comics, but we know that in every run of comics, a lot of other heroes and villains and side characters come in and out of those runs, right? They participate in an episode, in an issue or two, and then they're gone. I think he's deploying that approach as to why he's saying this is not Superman 2. Like, it's sort of a weird way of saying, like, well, in my conception, it's actually Superman 4 or Superman 5. You see what I'm saying? Because he's like, I've already done these other things Superman related, the Superman saga elsewhere. It's starting to feel like that. Now, I don't particularly love how integrated he's making Peacemaker for the reasons we've talked about, right, in terms of content. But I'm just stepping back and looking at when I see like Aaron Pierre's coming into Man of Tomorrow. And then I think there's a high probability Lobo will be in Man of Tomorrow after coming into Supergirl. And there's a high probability Supergirl will be in Man of Tomorrow after her own movie was called Woman of Tomorrow. Originally, like, I just look at that and I'm like, I think that's why he's saying it's not Superman 2. It's like there is really no such thing as like a true 2. It's just issue, and here's the run that I'm making.
Do you want to get into the Peacemaker aspect of multiverse?
Yeah, can we? So I think people watching this show know our views on James Gunn from a humor, from some of the innuendo. We're not going to do. Rather than bore you guys with a weekly installment of that, you know where we stand. Disclaimer, right? There's sort of a love-hate relationship. We've kind of decided, let's focus on the DCU ramifications of what we're seeing because James Gunn is telling us this show really matters to that. So I had a couple of points, and I wanted to start with this. We get introduced to the pocket universe in Superman the movie. We get introduced to kind of really full-fledged multiverse in Peacemaker season 2. And my obvious question to you is, we've just seen the Marvel multiverse saga struggle in a lot of ways, and at points be very good in terms of its multiversal storytelling, and like in Loki, and at points be just incredibly poor. What do you think of the decision to introduce a multiverse into the DCU right out of the gate after Marvel has had the challenges it's had? Like, what's going on there? And like, do you think it's a good creative move?
I was doing a little bit of reading about that and his whole pocket dimension thing. The fact that Peacemaker's father is smarter than Lex Luthor in his ability to create this more than Lex has is a little bit interesting. But yes, we did get a version of a multiverse in the MCU that hasn't really worked out, and we'll see its end very soon. The MCU's way wasn't really a way that people sort of connected with. And James Gunn is doing it in a different way. Given all that James Gunn has said about connectivity and stuff like that, we all know is about,
It's about connection.
regardless of what he has said, we still have to do homework. This is still a
Yeah,
lot
it
of homework.
is. I mean, it's looking, that's what I'm saying. It's actually looking in some ways more connected than what the MCU did.
Exactly. He's going about it in a way, just in a different way. And we just have to see it through, I guess, right?
I think it's a mistake. I think if I'm James Gunn, I think it's being done for two reasons. So number one is, again, he would tell you, well, this is just central to the DNA of comics, the idea that there are multiple universes. That's always been the case. That always will be the case. So why am I dancing around that? Let's give the people something that is already very common. So that, I think, that would be his number one counter to anything I'm about to say. My issue with it is, I just think it is tough for the mainstream audience to be constantly dealt the idea that there's many versions of the same thing. And so when I look at Peacemaker season episode 3, which I actually found to be the most enjoyable for me personally, and I think would actually be the least enjoyable for many of the gunheads, because it is the most conventional storytelling episode that he's done, maybe in the series. But it really adheres to a multiversal trope, which is you take Chris Smith, make him the fish out of water, where he drops into the other universe, has no idea what his Chris Smith is like, and then encounters all these people he knows who are living very different lives. And we just follow that. So I think the episode works because he gets to be a true hero and save the day with no moral ambiguity. Well, unless you consider killing the bad guys in the way he does, but actually was pretty well executed set piece, I thought. But then he encounters Harcourt. He encounters Rick Flag Jr. Like, that's all very conventional. Like, I would actually argue if James Gunn sees himself as unconventional, this was as cliche as he gets. And I think he actually executes it pretty well. I just question whether people want to see this on a grand scale, where it's like your cheat code in any project is you can kind of enter a quick series of numbers and then be transported into, oh, here's another version of that world where these characters are still alive. So even though he's telling us characters who die stay dead, he's then saying, but there's other versions of those characters out there, right? So he's giving himself, on the one hand, creative flexibility. I think he's saying it's comic book accurate. I think he is also leaving open things like, if Grant Gustin is playing the Flash, he's probably not playing the Flash as DCU Flash forever, but this allows him to play the Flash in a meaningful way, maybe as a bookend for folks. But I just think audiences being so sour and cold as they are on the MCU multiverse is kind of a bad word for mainstream audiences right now. I would have held this back, and to see it this central in Peacemaker and him saying, this is where we're going, like this is going to lead you places, makes me a little nervous as to how much he's going to lean on it.
We shall see how people receive it. I think DC fans of the comic book genre will fans of the comic book genre will see your bad movie, your bad TV shows. Why? Because we're comic book fans and want to see what you do. But for the general audience, which is where the real dollars come in, I don't know if they're there for that or will be there for that for a longer period of time. Remains to be seen, but we'll see.
Well, that's to my point about Brainiac or whoever big bad is going to be in Man of Tomorrow. I think James Gunn is smart enough to realize that he needs that thing that Marvel had in the Infinity Saga, which is you need to have something to keep people on the line when the individual product isn't necessarily the best. Right now, like Superman was a movie that people generally liked, but it wasn't like that movie ended with a grand narrative, we're going here. Does that make sense? It's like we introduce a lot of things. We're clearly going with Supergirl on a nice little adventure. But the tie that binds for the whole DCU, why we even want to tell a Superman story in the first place, we don't totally know that yet. And I feel like by the time we get to the end of Man of Tomorrow, we will. And that will also help with what you're saying, which is like, if you kind of have an average something, but you know that average something will get you one step closer to Justice League versus Brainiac, if that's what it is, or Justice League versus Legion of Doom, you're much more apt to check it out than if you think it's just the thing over here. Kind of like what's happening with the dumps that Marvel's doing with some other product right now. Here's the other reason I want to bring this up. I'm getting a little confused, and I've seen all this stuff. I don't totally understand what exactly is canon and what is not. This is starting to become like Star Wars, because in this Peacemaker episode, so Rick Flag Jr. in the flashback is making reference to the David Ayer Suicide Squad mission. So does that mean both Suicide Squads are now I'm getting a little like, what is matter? And we know that like technically Viola Davis is still Amanda Waller in the DCU, even though she was that in the Ayer Suicide Squad. So now I'm a little bit like, what are we picking and choosing is actually part of the central storyline? And I'm wondering, like, are they kind of almost outsmarting themselves with this?
I think James Gunn's approach to this is it sounds when he talks about it like he's trying to figure it out as well, and sort of this is just what it is sort of attitude, and hasn't been really able to really give us a clear sort of explanation as to what's what. Hence all the questions that are being asked about this. I think he has some work to do if he wants the general, because again, the general audience is the prophet. That's the prophet right there. And I don't think he's doing a good job of explaining this whole thing. I mean, the general audience may not even know about all these other things that are being put into these shows and movies and things of that nature, right? So he still has a lot of work to do in that regard. So yeah, it's a bit confusing, and it is what it is. But for the general audience, those are the sort of things that people don't really want to show up.
Yeah, listen, I respect that even in a movie like the David Ayer Suicide Squad, there could be things that you thought were well executed or want to hang on to in a perfect world. But sometimes I feel like creatively the hard choice is the right choice, which is that if you really want to start fresh. And if that costs you a few storyline strands and maybe even a few actors, like I have nothing bad to say about Viola Davis ever, but if you just kind of say like she was the wrong person she was the right person at the wrong time for the DCEU and you just
Yes.
want it to be clean for people, you might be better off just casting a new
Yes.
Amanda Waller so there's no confusion. See what I'm saying? It's like I
Yes.
just wonder if the James Gunn comic book fan in him won't let go of some of this stuff because he just genuinely liked it. And he's like, I don't really want to put that on the cutting room floor. But I'm like, I think you're better off doing it because if someone like myself who's seen all this stuff is kind of jarred by the comment and then starts scratching my head like, wait, what do I have to remember now? I thought that was done. I thought that movie was 10 years old. I thought I was past that. And now you're saying I got to rethink the emotional stakes of that. Like it just kind of was like, I don't know, man. I think you're making it a little too complicated for, as you say, the people that will write your ticket to 800, 900, a billion too. Like I will say this as one of the things that this Peacemaker season has done amidst all the things that kind of annoy me about it. I like what he's doing with everything related to Rick Flag Sr. and Jr. There's stuff there that I'm excited about. The flashback scene, getting a little more color and context, from Chris Smith's perspective about that moment where he kills the son. I think it's giving Grillo maybe a runway to be something pretty interesting in this universe that we care about. So I like that there's some breadcrumbs there, and I kind of want to keep pulling on that strand, but I don't know that I want to pull on it enough to make the David Ayer Suicide Squad something that we all have to have remembered and seen, if that makes sense. So,
yeah, a lot there to unpack and understand. And Gunn is certainly not making it easy, but he's sticking to whatever plan he has in his mind, and hopefully he's able to convey a method of us to a method for us to understand what's going on. I don't know if he's going to truly accomplish that. I don't know if the general audience is going to really care. We shall see.
we're a long way from Gods and Monsters. Like, let's just call a spade, right? Gods and Monsters led with authority. It led with Brave and the Bold. Like, those movies are so far from happening. If they happen, right now we're on Man of Tomorrow and the Superman saga. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying when you say James Gunn has this idea of where he's going, he kind of does and he doesn't, because that idea clearly has changed.
The concept is lost. It's perhaps not
Yeah.
lost, but forgotten. The concept of gods and monsters has pretty much been forgotten. We don't hear that.
Well, he says it.
Title
It's in the
in
scroll
his
at the start of
yeah.
Superman. But I'm just saying
Yeah.
the roadmap they gave us, we've turned right, left, and we're in another state from that roadmap at this point. And I'm not saying that's bad. Again, that could wind up being a better place, right? Like, they didn't think about a Clayface movie when they laid out Gods and Monsters, but that may wind up being the best monster thing that they get, right? Out of this, right? So I'm just saying James Gunn has shown he's very fluid when it comes to the idea of where we're going. So I don't actually think he's sitting there in the office being like, we have to get here. I think that can change and already is changing.
Yeah.
David Zaslav is saying that. He's saying, we got to get
More money, more money, more money.
That's the end goal for him. He knows where he wants to go. Yeah, let us know in the comment section below what you guys think so far of Peacemaker and his connection to everything that he's doing with this world. A lot of homework to do, but let's see if people are there for it or not. You want to move on to Jeffrey Wright?
Yeah, let's go some Batman stuff here. We got to come Batman and Clayface. We got some stuff here. Yeah.
Jeffrey Wright. I think we talked about this a long time ago. I think his commission of Gordon was dope. I even once said when they were discussing, because I thought he was going to possibly be in the Penguin too. I thought, because this is crime and Gotham, and so I thought he was going to be a part of all of this, but he wasn't. And I made a bold claim that he would win an Oscar and an Emmy for his performances in each. I'm like, damn, this is a possibility, because I think he's fantastic. Listen, if you change T'Challa into a white dude, we have a problem. You change Bruce Wayne into an African American, I have a problem. I'm not there for that. I'm there to see what the character is. and what he's been. But for Commissioner Gordon, man, I was thinking about that. Eartha Kitt.
I
I
know
don't
who
know
that
if you
is. Yeah.
guys know who that is. Some of you may know.
Yep.
But she was Catwoman a long time ago. Not even
60s.
recent. A
Yeah, 1960.
long
Yep.
time ago. Commissioner Gordon was a character of that time. It was a creation of that time. We live in different times now where situations can be a little bit different, and it's fine. But I don't mind Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon, and people having something to say about it is not consequential to the character, really. It isn't. And so people out there complaining, and it's like at this point in life, man, you just gotta grow up, man. If you got pants, hopefully they're big boy pants. Put them on. Or go buy some. Because this complaining is ridiculous. He is not just one thing, I would say. He you know what I'm saying? It can change. That character can change. And it's fine. If you make him to a female, I don't know. That's different. To me, that's probably a little bit, I don't know. It could work, but I think that would a lot more people would probably have a lot more to say about this. But him being a person of color is not a problem. And I don't know why is he the Batman came out already, yo. It was dope. Why are people complaining about it now and still? It's like, go somewhere, yo, and get over it. But your thoughts on this whole thing?
He had stuff to say, and I think we're all in agreement. We on this show are all in agreement on this one. But quote, I really find it fascinating the ways in which there's such a conversation, and I think even more of a conversation now. He's talking about his casting about black characters in these roles. It's just so effing racist and stupid. It's just so blind in a way that I find revealing to not recognize that the evolution of these films reflect the evolution of society, that somehow it's defiling this franchise not to keep it grounded in the cultural reality of 1939 when the comic books were first published. It's just the dumbest thing, and it's absent all logic, end quote. Hey, look, I have nothing to add to that. I mean, that's for his character, that is said perfectly, which is Commissioner Gordon being Caucasian is a function of being written in 1939, and that's it. If Bob Kane invents Batman in 2025, the original drawn cast of that issue would have more representation, period. Like it's not even a question. And again, you hit on it. We always evaluate this on this show in the context of, does it matter to the ethos and essence of the character? You use T'Challa as the extreme example, like a self-evident, like, of course it does. Like, so name one thing about Commissioner Gordon in 2022 Gotham or 2025 Gotham where the color of his skin changes the fundamental nature of his role in a Batman story. And I would submit there's none. It's a colorblind role. It literally is. The way the character is written and realized, and like, let's be clear, Gary Oldman was awesome as Commissioner Gordon. Jeffrey Wright is awesome as Commissioner Gordon. The relationship to Batman, the relationship to crime in Gotham, it just doesn't matter. Like, it really doesn't. And even if you're going to play this out and say, well, Commissioner Gordon's daughter will someday be Batgirl, great. Same question. Does it prevent her from being Batgirl if she's a person of color, if she's white? Not really. I mean, like, I just, the evolution point is the key point. Where I think the conversation, so if you want to have a little more interesting, nuanced conversation about this particular aspect of what he's saying, I actually think the place you could have it is Caped Crusader. Because Caped Crusader left the show in the 1930s, right? But actually tried to then put the evolution of color and sexuality in 1930s show. That, if you want to have a little more of a debate and conversation about the realism of that and like whether that's a good, that actually maybe we could talk about a little bit. But as Jeffrey Wright is saying, his Gordon exists in a modern Gotham. And in a modern Gotham, absolutely, you could have that. I would actually, it's really funny that this came up. I don't remember this coming up around the time of The Dark Knight, because remember, Gordon, in that one, Gordon's predecessor, Commissioner Loeb, is also black. And he's killed by the Joker. But no one at that time seemed to have a problem with Gotham PD having a black commissioner just because it wasn't named Gordon, right? So now because it's Gordon, it's problematic? Like, I don't think that's problematic at all. When we talk about the things we look forward to, in the Batman Part 2, obviously the arc with Pattinson is the number one thing you want to follow and see if they can execute. But part of the execution of that is this relationship, because the Batman Part 1 nails this relationship. To me, it's the best relationship in the film. Is them, the detective work. It is Commissioner Gordon protecting Batman's ability to help against. I still love that first person scene of him walking slowly in, and you just see like all the cops being like side eyeing him and be like, "What the is he doing here?" And it's just Gordon being like, "Yo, clear out. Don't even think about it. This guy's here to do good." Like that is it.
Damn. Colin Farrell on Batman 2 and Penguin Season 2. From what he has said, he's not in it too much in this sequel to the Batman. For Penguin 2, I think you have to make it a little bit easier for him to get into that suit in order for him to want to come back. Because according to him, he had
He doesn't
an
like it.
atrocious time.
He doesn't like it.
I mean, No, I mean, to be honest, man, I don't think anyone likes it that they have to sit
Totally. I
in
mean,
a
this is
chair for
this is the
hours.
Jennifer Lawrence and Rebecca Romaine
know?
playing Mystique, and like, yeah, they don't like it at all. Well, he confirmed. He said, "I haven't got much to do on it," meaning the Batman Part 2, just a little bit. But then he just dropped, "I read the script.
Is extraordinary."
Take that, James Gunn. It's extraordinary. Remember, James Gunn was like, James Gunn is like, it's a good start. We got some things to work on. And then the people associated with the movie are like, it's extraordinary.
You know what, man? I think the people in Matt Reeves' circumference are really on the side of Matt Reeves and what he has to bring to the table. James Gunn sort of, perhaps for James Gunn, is a little bit too serious. He wants to throw, he probably was reading it as like, he should have thrown a little joke in here. It's like, James Gunn, I don't want you touching anything that Matt Reeves has to do or any other creator has to do with their vision and what they want to do. Certainly there has to be some alignment because you're the head of the studio, right? You're head of DCU. But don't, I would say, tread lightly in how you speak of their work and what they're doing, because apparently from what these guys are saying, this is what it needs to be. This is extraordinary. Mr. Hahn.
These people are people. They have feelings, and like they put their, actors put their heart into the work, right? So it's like whether you're Jeffrey Wright or Robert Pattinson or Colin Farrell or Matt Reeves, like, don't tell me they don't feel at least a little bit of a way about like, you guys are Elseworlds now and you're being shunted aside little by little for this DCU Batman. So yeah, like there's a little bit of, I'm envisioning scenes from 300, right? Right? Where like it's them against the world a little bit on this movie. That's how they feel, right? And it's like, I have this feeling of like, is Matt Reeves going to do the Spartans, what is your profession? Like when he's like lined up against the DCU guys, right? See, I brought more soldiers than you did. Like, yeah, I think there's a little bit of that it will make this movie better because their mentality is going to be, they kind of don't want us to be the thing. So let's go show them that we're it. Like, I think there's a little bit of that, right? I would feel that way.
I can't
I would
wait.
feel that way every day on set.
I cannot wait. Yes, of course.
And especially if they were to announce who the DCU Batman is before the movie comes out, I would be like, yo, like, let's wrap this up tight in post-production and like lay this down.
These are the type of moments where I would say, you get that little extra boost of, there's a level of seriousness involved in this and a level of obviously competition now. And it's that extra thing that they'll feel that when they're going to go out there and perform, I got to give it my all. This is it right here. And I can't wait to see that. I cannot wait to see that. And I can't wait to have that conversation.
I mean, and I think I don't think we're exaggerating because it's human nature. It's human nature if someone tells you, If you were the thing, right? You were the Batman 5 years ago. And now there's this whole other universe on the same studio lot, and they're telling you a new Batman is coming to replace you. Come on. You ain't human if you don't feel some competitive juice about that, especially when your movie made more money than the one that just came out in the new universe, and not by a small amount. Of course you feel it. And you know you've got the goods. That's the other thing, right? Like Reeves he's made a string of highly successful, acclaimed films. And the people working on this movie are top notch. Like, not to say that the DCU people aren't. I'm just saying, Pattinson, Andy Serkis, Colin Farrell, Jeffrey Wright, Zoe Kravitz. They're not John Turturro. They're not taking a back seat to anybody. That's as good a cast as you're gonna find. So of course they're gonna just.
Yeah.
We have not heard the last of this. That's why I said, like, you're like 2026 is a great test of the DCU, but 2027 is popcorn time for us. Because that is when it is like Donkey Kong. Right? Because in theory, you would get Secret Wars, which I don't know if that'll be 2027, but in theory, that's when it's on the calendar, right? So in theory, you would get Man of Tomorrow, Batman Part 2, and Secret Wars in the span of 6 months. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it is exciting time for this genre, man. It's not so much has to do with the content, but what's being talked about outside of the content and what's at stake here and how things could change. Yo, if the Batman 2 does numbers, Brian, we haven't heard the last of this. Zazoff is gonna be at Matt Reeves' door, like, yo, I know you write slow, but can you speed up, please? So we can get this next one out. But what about forget about James Gunn. This is Zaslav. Forget about James Gunn. Do what you do, but do it a little bit quicker. Start now. I don't care, but let's get this
let me
done.
also say, go back to our previous discussion. And James Gunn is out there cherry picking stuff from other parts of DC films that he wants to be part of DCU canon. If you have a Batman franchise that has produced an $800 million debut, and then let's say it's like a $1.2 billion follow-up, and like you don't look to bring in any of that, I mean, it kind of looks a certain kind of way, right? So I'm just saying, like, if you're pulling in David Ayer Suicide Squad, which admittedly made $800 million in a different time, but like, if you're borrowing parts of that and saying that's part of your DCU, are you really gonna, like, with a straight face, be like, Jeffrey Wright is to my Commissioner Gordon? Nah, that ain't gonna work. I can't have that. Like, we can have that if you're borrowing, Joel Kinnaman and Enchantress, we could definitely have Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon. So. It gets a little sticky if that movie is, and I think it'd be a funny thing is if we said betting odds right now, what is the best movie of those three? Isn't the Batman Part 2 the favorite? Like if you said Man of Tomorrow, Batman Part 2 of Secret Wars, what is the best movie, the highest critical acclaim, the best top to bottom, tightest film? I think Batman Part 2 is the favorite. Has to be.
Yes. Given the fact that when that trailer came out, how long before the movie?
Really, 18 months? 18 months maybe? Yeah, it was
Year and a
fandom during
half,
COVID,
maybe?
right? That's when it came out. Yeah, so that's 18 months.
And people were scratching. It was crazy. And then they followed up with another one that got you even more excited. James Gunn hasn't been able to do that.
Yeah, there's no trailer he's produced that's as good as
the
Nirvana fandom teaser. And that movie was 25% shot when they put that out.
Think about this scenario. If the Batman 2 is received as what we think could possibly be
the new Dark Knight, that's the comparison he's going for. This is the more modern Dark Knight.
And James Gunn's DCU Batman, Brave and the Bold, is not received as well. It gets all the 90 or 100% score. I don't care about. The numbers will tell the tale as to who's there for what. It'll be interesting, Brian. That piece right there is going to be interesting, and what sort of discussions happen afterwards.
James Gunn, I don't think it's the same thing because the stakes aren't the same. But James Gunn's already been kind of bailed out once in the sense that Joker 2 was a disaster. Joker 1 was the highest grossing R-rated movie until Deadpool broke it. Joker 2 was a fiasco. And so it came and went. It made no money. He never had to think about that ever again. And I don't think necessarily that's the same as Batman, but I'm just making the point of this other Elseworlds world died on the vine for him. He didn't have to do anything. This is why I say deep down in the places he doesn't want to talk about, he's hoping the Batman Part 2 turns out like that, because then he doesn't have to talk about it or have people worry about it again. We as fans want the opposite. You want to see the Batman Part 2 do huge numbers. You want to see someone in that movie get nominated for an Oscar. Like, you want to have people walk out of that and saying, man, was that better than Chris Nolan's Dark Knight? Was it? Did I have a better, like, if that becomes a conversation, then that Elseworlds ain't going anywhere. It's not. It can't.
James Gunn gonna have to deal with it, and he's gonna have to talk about it, which he doesn't, because it's all about DCU, right?
And if it's Asimov sitting there being like 800 million, billion two, and he's looking at like Superman is 600. I know you think Supergirl is going to be bigger, but let's say Supergirl is like 500, which would be great for them. And then like Man of Tomorrow is like 850. That's excellent, right? That's in a vacuum. That's excellent. But $1.2 billion is $1.2 billion. And that's what I'm saying. Like, if that's sitting out there at that number or something like that, that is not getting canceled. It can't.
But what it also says is that, and you're gonna just have to take the L and realize that, yo, Matt Reeves did it better than you. You're gonna have to hear that.
In his face! In his face! Yes! In the face!
You're gonna have to hear that. Matt Reeves did it better than you.
You mentioned Jeffrey Wright not being in the Penguin. Well, we actually know why he wasn't in the Penguin, because he was supposed to be in Matt Reeves' other show. Remember? The Gotham PD show. That never happened. So the original plan was he was going to be on HBO. It just didn't come to fruition. I'm really sorry that it didn't. Again, if Batman Part 2 does the huge business and gets the acclaim, like, we'll talk about Penguin Season 2 here in a second. It's going to happen. Like, Penguin Season 2 is going to happen. Right? This is posturing. This is take your time. This is still award season in a limited series. You don't want to pretend like there's another season if you're about to get a limited series award, right? But it's going to happen. And that means Matt Reeves' Arkham series. Like, there's other stuff that Matt Reeves did want to do with Batman that's kind of been pushed to the side because they're pushing the DCU. But if Matt Reeves comes back with a vengeance, as we saw Penguin kind of got him back with a vengeance, he's going to be around. They ain't gonna take that parking pass away. Like, and that's gonna bother James Gunn, I think, on some level. Now we will win. The studio will win. Zaslav will win. But I'm just saying, yeah, that's competitive stuff inside the same building.
What's going on with Penguin Season 2?
Yes, like I said, I think, as you said, this is posturing from Farrell about maybe a little bit about money, but I think more about like the prosthetics and about the awards. Like I said, Penguin is in every limited series Emmy category that's coming up. If you say there's a season 2, there's a risk to your voting, right? So he says, quote, I know I heard rumblings they were thinking about, they'd like to do a second season. I don't know if that's a good idea. I don't know the way you go back to that trough. And part of me wants to go, just let it go, people. We got away with it. Leave it as it is, end quote. I think that is posturing for the award stuff and for he wants a little easier time on set than he had the last time. That's it. I still think he's going to have a big part. If there ever is a Batman Part 3, I think all of this has led to him being some kind of puppet master in some kind of finale to whatever Matt Reeves wanted. I think that's always been there. And I think that's what's being held back. And so it makes sense to me he wouldn't be gigantic in Batman Part 2 if he just had his own show chronologically. And then he gets his own show again after. But then they're getting closer and closer to where eventually they are head to head.
We shall see lots of little tidbits that are perhaps small now, but will be huge when those things actually happen. And we cannot wait. Clayface set photos.
2 observations. First off, there's a couple of photos of the star, Tom Rhys Harris, in a lot of prosthetics. So first off, cool to see they're actually doing some physical real world work that's sort of sending him in the transformation. Obviously CGI, we've heard, is a lot of the budget to make Clayface look like Clayface. So it's kind of hard to read. But did you see the shadow dance number? That I thought was freaking cool.
No.
There's a nighttime shot of it's Tom Reese Harry's as Clayface, I guess, maybe, although like not CGI. He's silhouetted against like the steps of a building in their Gotham, and he's doing like he's dancing with his shadow, and it looks like like a Fred Astaire classic routine. And I was watching that and just being like, that's really artistic, of like this guy kind of like going crazy and then kind of investigating what have I become is sort of what it looks like. It just looks really cool. I was just like, it's like, I know you say like dance in a movie like this. What are you talking about? But I'm like, I got it. The feel of the scene is like he's trying to figure out what happened.
Yeah.
And he's sort of like, look at what I can do, kind of. I was interested. I thought it was cool. This movie does nothing but get me more excited.
Clayface could be, is these other things that happen that gets Batman even more, I guess, grand. It's not Batman himself for me, has always been what Batman has to contend with. Batman by himself, I'm interested. But what he has to contend with is even more interesting. And I think it's because of the Clayface. James Gunn's DCU Batman will have a lot more interest in what that will be. Batman on his own, there's interest, but Clayface brings a lot more to it for James Gunn. So James Gunn has to be very appreciative to the guy that brought him this and this idea, because it enhances the DCU Batman in my eyes anyway.
100%. And I do have to give James Gunn credit here that like this idea came out of left field and he was smart enough and big enough to immediately say, front of the line, let's go. Like that, you got to give a man credit for that, because I think it not only enhances it, I think it actually increases the efficiency of what they're trying to do, because this is DCU Gotham. This will be the first time you see it. Kind of saves you a little time, right? You don't really have to introduce certain landmarks and places because this movie will already do it. It even gives you a little bit of runway if you want to. This is an extreme example, but it always bugs me when people say Black Panther is the best like superhero origin film. I'm like, whoa. He got a real arc in Civil War. That did some walking so Black Panther could run. I'm not saying Batman has that kind of role in Clayface. I'm saying Gotham as a whole has that kind of role in Clayface, where like you just get some stuff out of the way so that when DCU Batman arrives, you don't have to spend the time in that movie addressing this, that, and the other thing, because they already took care of it. And you're right. Planting a Batman seed. I'd be shocked if they didn't. Shocked if they didn't in Clayface.
At least in a post-credit scene, man, I'm telling you, man, Batman is, dare I say, on par with, I wouldn't say dare I say with regards to Spider-Man, but with Avengers type of stuff where you're building towards Batman, that's a thing, I think. So how they're going about creating the world around Batman is a big thing. And how they execute it, obviously, it will enhance the experience of DCU Batman. Lanterns, true nature being kept under wraps. I love it, because here's the thing. If we knew what we knew about Empire Strikes Back before it came out, it wouldn't have had the same effect. So the fact that people are doing their due diligence in creating this sort of this form of keeping it under wraps, so that the story, so these guys out here, there's all sorts of people theorizing and stuff like that. If you're not able to do that, or not even come close to what really is going on, enhances that experience when we finally see it, right? This is what that experience is about when you read a book, when you don't know. This is what it's all about for me. So I'm glad, if this is the case, that we don't know as much as we think we know.
The drumbeat around this show from the very beginning has been, this is True Detective with two Green Lanterns, Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart. The official synopsis is Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart are called in to investigate a strange mystery in the heartland of America. Grounded, earthbound, realistic. Those have been the taglines and the words always used to describe the series. When each successive casting announcement came out, the actors were then said, hey, they're playing this character. And it would be like a name you hadn't recognized before. And it would be like, oh, Kelly MacDonald's a sheriff, and Garrett Dillahunt is modern cowboy William Macon, right? So they would give you these like little description that seemed they would fit the heartland of America, ground-bound idea. I would say the first time my eyebrows raised were when they announced that Ulrich Thompson was playing Sinestro in this series, because I said, what is Sinestro doing in an earthbound Midwestern America mystery? That was the first time I kind of was like, is this a flashback? Which it could be, to Hal's training. Is it like a teaser? Like, what's going on? And then, like I said, so they had Garrett Dillahunt as William Macon. Then they announced Paul Ben Victor, who I just look at Paul Ben Victor, you'll recognize his face instantly. He's been 100,000 mob type movies and crime movies as a bad guy. And they announced he's playing a tan, just like a name you've never heard. Well, something got out in the last couple of weeks from a WB insider who was talking about the show is still in production, but saying like what they have so far, saying it was really good, but quote, while it starts off grounded, eventually it leans heavily into full sci-fi. And then Garrett Dillahunt tweeted something about various villains where he had him, Thomason, and Paul Ben Victor, and it showed Dillahunt as Black Hand. It showed Paul Ben Victor as a Red Lantern, and then it had Thomason as Sinestro. And when that went out, with combination with this leak, it's starting to come into focus that, yeah, it's an Earth mystery to kick things off and hook you, but by the time this show ends, it is a full-on cosmic, because Black Hand is like Black Lantern Corps. So you'd have like Black Lantern Corps, Red Lantern Corps, Green Lantern Corps, and Sinestro all in the season one. I think the implication is they're blowing it out by the end of the season, and you're fully connected and integrated in space and doing whatever and ready to go into the. But everyone is keeping it under wraps as to who they really like, what they're really doing, and what the show's really about. I think that's fantastic. Sign me up.
And the fact that HBO, who have their, what would I say? What would be the word? Their history in doing quality. That's what they're known for, doing quality. For doing, like, look at Game of Thrones. Look at a lot of the things that they have done. The Penguin. Quality.
Here you go. 77th Annual Emmy Awards are this year. HBO, a new record, 142 nominations for this year alone. That's who's showing Lanterns.
That's what I'm saying, yo. Lanterns is going to be an event, and the things that people will be talking about at the water cooler. This is it right here.
Look, I mean, now that this is starting to, and the thing is, to your point, this is leaking out to people like you and me. This will not leak out to the average HBO viewer, right? The average the viewers that make HBO what it is will not be aware of this. So they will go in and they'll just be along for the ride with this cast. And if it is done as well as we think it can and will be done, and if it's Emmy quality, which obviously the Penguin was and so many of the other shows are, I mean, that is a new world, because we have not had that, right? Penguin is awesome. Don't get me wrong. Penguin is awesome, but Penguin is a subversion of a genre we have seen before, right? A crime show, a street show. We're just doing it with Batman characters in Gotham. This, at an Emmy level, we haven't really seen, right? As good as like Flash got to, or even like High Points of Smallville, or
Arrow.
Arrow, right? It's like we haven't seen the massive budget, blow it out, go for every award category show like this before.
Cannot wait. Cannot wait. Yeah. DC. A lot of news, a lot of things happening, a lot of things to look forward to. Cannot wait for the next couple of years and what they have to shell out for us to consume and talk about.
Quick before we sign off, rank order. So these known projects that are coming, rank order your anticipation. So you got Supergirl, Man of Tomorrow, Clayface, Batman Part 2, and Lanterns. Those 5, put in order 5, like 1 to 5. What's your most anticipated, the least anticipated of that?
I would say Batman Part 2 is 1. I would say Lanterns is 2.
I would agree. Okay, this is why I'm doing this. Go ahead.
Clayface is 3, then Supergirl, then Man of Tomorrow.
You made my point. What did you just do? You put Supergirl and Man of Tomorrow at the bottom of the 5. And I'm not saying they're going to be bad. I'm psyched for Supergirl. I'm psyched. Don't get me wrong. And I'm psyched for Man of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm psyched. But I'm making the point.
Remember my prediction.
The most exciting things on the DC horizon that are confirmed are actually not that. And maybe that's a compliment to the whole universe, that we've got 5 things and we're like, hey, we're hyped for Supergirl, but there's 3 other things that we think could be even cooler than that. But I'm just saying, I agree with you. I think that's exactly the order I would have.
Yeah, let us know in the comment section below. Shout out to Freddie Maloney, who has been joining us watching the show. Hopefully he has enjoyed it. But let us know in the comment section below what you guys think, what's to come.
Yeah.
And what's your order? Give us your order.
The good news is, I don't think you can be wrong. There's nothing on that list I'm not excited for. In fair, like that's the good news, right? We've had some points like in Marvel where I'm just like, I'm kind of mid on this thing. Like these 5, like it's all varying degrees of very excited. But I do think the non-Superman stuff is higher.
Like if I had to see 1 through 5, like if I had a slot, like you have these 5 slots. And you can see this in order. What do you want to see it in?
Yeah, this is Ray Combs. What did the survey say? Steve Harvey. What did the survey say? 5 answers on the board.
Exactly. But let us know in the comment section below what you guys think. Remember to hit that like and subscribe. And if you don't drink water, drink some LaCroix.